Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our eTalk series. I would like to introduce you to Joy Malone. She's a professional photographer and a professor. So let's give her a round of applause. Okay, and we'll get started.
Excellent. So, hello everyone. Very glad that all of us are here. This is your opportunity to learn from Joy's experiences. All right. So, I would really encourage each and every one of you to have questions at the end of this fireside chat. Okay. Uh, just some quick introductions. My name is Akar Sapru. I'm the assistant professor of design thinking and innovation here at the Heinz Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And it is my pleasure that we have Joy Malone with us. So, welcome, Joy. Joy is an award winning photographer and a professor at St. John's University. She has a capture everything mentality. She's working for Reuters, New York Times, Getty Entertainment, so a lot of feathers in her cap there. She's captured everyone from Jay-Z to Princess Anne, and very recently, one of my personal favorites, Angelina Jolie, which happened a couple of days ago. So with that, we'll get started with this fireside chat. Please hold your questions until the very end. Everyone good to go? Yes? Excellent. So Joy, let's actually give her a round of applause. We forgot about that. All right. Okay. So Joy, we know that for most entrepreneurs, their background, their early experiences, they shape their life's trajectory. If you can help us walk us through your the origin story, so to speak, like what were some of the significant events early on in life that have shaped the person that you have become?
Okay. So, uh, okay. So I was born in 1980, so I'm a child of the 80s. This was back before, we had the photography had moved to the screens. Per se, it was more of a physical, tangible thing. So I grew up with giant photo albums in my living room, and I would spend time looking through them. A lot of my different family members were into photography, my father, my grandfather, my uncles. So I grew up around cameras. I always wanted to take pictures. This was back during film. So you had to, shoot your picture, and then after you finish the entire roll, you would take it to the store, get it developed, and then, get your prints back. So it was a different process to photography, but what I would say my early experiences where I would look through photo books a lot, and I was just really interested in looking at photographs. My favorite toy was a Fisher Price camera that didn't even take pictures, but I do recall sitting and just snapping it and, looking, composing shots in the viewfinder. And yeah, I would say once I turned maybe like 10 or 11, almost every Christmas, I would get some sort of a camera, whether it was a regular film camera or whether it was a Polaroid. I always had a camera in my hand. And so photography, although it wasn't a career choice until I was your age in college, it was something that I've just always gravitated toward.
Excellent. You kind of alluded to this, but like, were there any role models that you had that that basically, in your mind, that kind of pushed that were responsible for you to gravitate towards photography?
So I would say early on, probably family members constantly capturing photos, getting the photos back, seeing them. I realized that there was just something magical about being able to point a device at something, snap it, and then you have, if you've done the settings correctly, you're going to get back a decent photograph. I was always really captivated with that. And then, like I said, I liked looking at photos, but it wasn't until I was an undergrad at St. John's University that I started to realize this could be a career. And then that's when I started to work with my professors and other mentors that I've kind of collected along the way. And those people have absolutely shaped me. But early on, I would say probably my father, my mother, just constantly having cameras and taking pictures.
Excellent. So there's clearly that creative expression in photography, but then when did you realize that you can actually turn that creativity into an actual business?
When I was an undergrad at St. John's. So I was on like the 6 year plan. So I went in as a bio major and I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. So actually, prior to that, I wanted to be a singer. I didn't even want to go to college. My family was like, no, you have to go. But I was like, no, I'm going to be like the next R&B, whatever. Um, and so my parents were like, no, you need to go to school. And so I went and I went in like, I'm going to be a doctor. And so I was a bio major. And I think it was like a 7:30 a.m. chemistry course, cured that. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to be a doctor. I think I then went to computer science and I really actually loved it, but I'm like, what is this going to look like for me as a working person? Do I really want to sit at a computer all the time? And I didn't. But what's ironic is as a photographer now, like 90% of my work is sitting at a computer. So I sit at a computer all the time. But at that time, I was like, that can't be my career. So I switched. I think then I was like, I'm going to be undecided for a little while and just kind of like, what courses do I like? I loved sociology and I loved philosophy. And so I declared philosophy my major, which is so cliche. Everyone's like, what do you do with that? In my head, I was going to go to law school as a philosophy major. And maybe a year, I was like a year away from finally graduating, and I had to take an art course as an elective. And I wound up taking photojournalism, which it turned out you were supposed to take intro to photo, photo two, photo three before taking this course that was actually meant for juniors going into their senior year, and it was also meant for photo majors. So I found myself in this course that was way above my level, and it was like the first day of class. The professor knew all the students. They were talking about, just throwing out photography terms that I had never heard of before. And I was sitting there like, did I miss the first day of class? Like, what am I missing? And after the class was over, I went up to the professor and she's like, how did you even get into this course? And I was like, I don't know. I was advised, I'm in here. And she's like, drop it. And I was like, well, I can't drop it. She's like, well, you shouldn't be in here. You never took the prerequisites. So I begged her to stay in. She was like, here's a roll of film. Go take some pictures this weekend, and I'll decide if you can stay in this class, depending on what you develop. I went and I did the best I could taking pictures, and she decided to let me stay in the class. That professor has gone on to become one of my mentors. She is the person who hired me to become a professor. I love her. Like, just it's beyond professor relationship. Like, she's such a light in my life. But yeah, at the time, I accidentally enrolled in her advanced photography class, and luckily, she let me stay.
So that actually demonstrates the entrepreneurial mindset. Never, the world tells us no, but then we still push back, and then we still try to succeed. So for the benefit of the students, like, what does the entrepreneurial mindset mean to you?
Interesting. That I'm in control of my days. I've always kind of had that mindset because even as a teenager, I babysat and I used to read the Babysitters Club, and I would try to figure out ways that I could make my own money and not necessarily apply for jobs. But every summer, I worked at my mom's Girl Scout camp, and that's where I learned that I can teach. Like, if I understand something, I can teach it. So I learned how to jump double dutch. I taught a whole bunch of little girls from kindergarten to fifth grade how to jump because it's easy for me once I understand something to explain it. And so I learned, that I can lead in Girl Scout camp during my summers, but during the school year, yeah, I would babysit and things like that. And so, yeah, my entrepreneurial mindset is very much that I'm in control of where my focus is. I don't feel like a drone completing activities for someone else's benefit.
Excellent, excellent. I wanted to know more about the Joy Malone photography. Like, how did the business actually get started? What were some of the events that led to you like formally getting into this business?
Okay, so all right, so I guess there's multiple layers. My father worked at IBM when I while I was growing up, and then he left and started his own business, which was videography. And so when he saw that I was interested in photography, he immediately gave me a nice camera. Um, what else? When I started to, thank you. Thank you. He gave me a camera early on. Um, when I said that I wanted to be a photographer, he connected me into jobs. So, whereas most photographers kind of apprentice under someone and learn the ropes slowly, I remember one day he's like, you're gonna shoot a wedding. And I'm like, I've never shot a wedding before. He's like, well, just get out there and shoot it. Like, it wasn't, um, there was no real learning process with it. And I just kind of jumped in and I've always kind of done that with almost all of my photo jobs.
And
Uh,
was that intimidating, just learning on the job?
I think a lot of things are intimidating leading up to it, but then once it's time to go, it's just like just do it, just jump in and do it, and do your best. After he connected me to jobs here and there was a point where I was just like, I love photography and I'm only going to do photography to earn money at this point. Like, I was very stubborn and I decided this. And after I graduated from undergrad, I was a philosophy major. At that point, I was a photography minor because I did, decide I love this so much. This is what I'm going to do, but I can't make it my major because then I would be in college for like even longer. Once I graduated, I did real estate photography. I did school photography. So that person who lugs all the equipment into your school, and I was that person. I'm sure you all are familiar with Photo Day. Um, and I wasn't really happy with what I was doing. I'm like, okay, I'm doing photography, but it's not to the level I want. And that's when I was like, I need to go back to school. And so I applied for my MFA and I got in and I did my MFA online. So there's a school called Academy of Art, University in San Francisco. It's a very large art school and they have an amazing online program. And so did my MFA online, and it was when I took my business of photography class at that level that I realized, like, oh, I need to go to White Plains and file for like a certificate and open a bank account and do all of the things that don't necessarily come natural to me. I'm very much like, I love photography. I want to take pretty pictures for people. That's it. I don't want all of the tax codes and writing things off, but that comes along with it. It goes hand in hand with it. And so I've had to learn that begrudgingly along the way. So I would say it's been like it leveling up slowly. Um, but yeah, when I did my MFA, I think I officially started my business in 2010, 2011. I think 2011 when I graduated with my MFA.
So would you say that the formal education aspect actually helped you in your business?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The formal education undergrad introduced me to the idea that I could even be a photographer, which was not an option in my head prior to that. And then my MFA honed my skills in that, like I said, I had worked in the field of photography prior to getting my MFA. I did school photography and I did real estate photography and I did any jobs that people hired me to do, but I wasn't happy with what I was shooting or just the level of my work. And it was doing my MFA that I started to develop my style at night, which is what I thought I was going to shoot. Like I did not want to take pictures of people at all. So it's kind of ironic that I've kind of wound up taking so many photos of celebrities and red carpets because I didn't want that. I'm a
And
very
why was that, if I may ask? Like, what
I'm a
was the?
very introverted person.
Okay.
I can be very shy, and something about going out with my camera at night with the chosen people I choose to have with me, it's quiet, it's therapeutic, and yeah, there's just not a lot of it's not really a lot of stress to me. Shooting a wedding, shooting a red carpet, those can be high stress. And a lot of photographers are very aggressive. I'm not aggressive. So, yeah.
So that actually brings me to the next question. Like, you clearly have, these are some very high profile individuals. Uh, do these projects come with added stress as opposed to some other projects that you might be involved in?
So, it's kind of a day by day thing. So, if we speak to each photo, the least stress would probably be this nighttime shot and the shot of my daughter and nephew. Um, so the nighttime shot I shot when I was doing my MFA. And like I said, I was just really exploring taking pictures of the landscape at night. While I was doing my MFA and I was out at night and I was telling everyone, I'm a photographer, hire me. One of my friends asked me to take pictures in a club. And I was like, okay, I'll go. And while I'm there, this photographer comes up to me and he's like, can I borrow a battery? And I was like, absolutely not. I don't know you. These batteries cost money, and kind of dismissed him. And then later on in the evening, I was looking and he's looking down at his camera and I'm like, oh, that would, that's a bad feeling. I was like, I would hope someone would give me a battery. So I went up to him and I'm like, don't steal my battery, but here you go. And it turns out his name is Johnny Nunez, and he is a really well-known celebrity photographer. He was Jay-Z's personal photographer for like 3 years. Um, Nas has rapped about him. He's been in a Def Jam game. Like he's really almost a celebrity himself. And I gave him a battery. And from there, he's like, "Oh, we're friends." And to this day, we're friends. And so one night, it was Summer Jam. He calls me up and he's like, "Oh, are you free?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am free." So I'm like, "Yes, he's gonna have me shoot Summer Jam." He's like, "I need you to go to the Village." I was like, "The Village?" I'm like, "All right." So I went. Um, and it was L.A. Reid's private birthday party with Jay-Z, Steve Harvey, and Mariah Carey. I had no clue that that was what I was walking into. So there was no stress until I got there and I'm like looking around and there's newspaper on the windows and gigantic bodyguards. And I went up to my contact and I'm like, so what is this? Just like a little dinner? And he was like, yeah, L.A. Reid, Jay-Z, Mariah Carey. I was like, what? So it became stressful. But not really, because they're just people. It was only 20 people there. There were no other photographers. They were very nice. And it was one of my first rules of, well, not rules, lessons, where I had to kind of figure out the balance between capturing the event, but like you don't want your camera in their face to the point where it's awkward. So I had to kind of like, fall back a little bit, but then make sure I'm capturing it. So yeah, that event was interesting. And then my daughter and Letitia James, even though I said my daughter wasn't that stressful, both of those represent kind of like dream come true moments for me. Jay-Z's picture and the night photos happened years ago. But the Reuters photo, so I wanted to shoot for Reuters forever. I did not think it would necessarily come to fruition, but I really wanted it. And New Rochelle was the first place to be hit with COVID on the East Coast. And when that happened, I live in New Rochelle, everybody wanted to talk to us. and I all of a sudden saw that Reuters was one of the many that wanted to interview the different people that lived in New Rochelle. It's really my Moms of New Rochelle group on Facebook. So, the moderators were like, Dr. Oz wants to interview us, just all these different places. And when I saw Reuters, I was like, I'm going to do that interview because I had been trying for years to kind of figure out how do I get in. After I did the interview, I asked the journalist, I was like, how do I connect with the photo department? And he was like, oh, I'll pass your information along. And the next day, the editor of the North American desk called me and offered me my first assignment, which was to just document my home life, which was, that's where that picture of my daughter comes from. And then from there, she and I have developed a relationship where, now I've done an investigative journalism piece for Reuters on Black maternal health. And I still, I capture all sorts of things, whether it's political rallies or, it's just a matter of pitching things to her. And sometimes she assigns me things. But yeah, Reuters was a huge dream come true for me because like I said, I started my business in like 2011 and I didn't sign to Reuters until 2020. So many years of wanting that. And to the point where I actually kind of gave it up. I was like, okay, if it's meant to be, it will be, but I release it. I love photography because I genuinely love photography. And so whether great, cool things happen or not, I'm still always going to be in dialogue with it.
Excellent. And we know that photography, it's a very competitive industry. So how did you go about creating your personal brand, and how do you maintain that so that you keep on getting these opportunities?
I think because so going back to formal education, when I was doing my MFA, when I took the business of photography class, my professor said, you might have these goals. And for me, it was my night photography. I'm like, I want to shoot at night. I want to be in museums and art galleries. And I only, in my head, I was going to become a famous night photographer. He was like, you might have these goals, but actually apply to jobs in your field. So one of our homework assignments was to apply for a photography job. So I applied for an infant photography job, taking pictures of infants in the hospitals while I was still a student. And they called me and they're like, oh, we want to hire you. And I'm like, well, this was a fake application. It was a homework assignment. I don't really want to take pictures of babies. The owner of the company was like, I'll call you back in a year when you graduate and, maybe you'll be interested. And when he called me back, I did take the job. And I feel like at every point I've taken jobs that I haven't necessarily wanted to do, but have taught me new skills. So, like I said, I only wanted to shoot at night, but taking the infant photography job helped me learn how to take pictures of people, helped me learn how to interact with people. All of a sudden, I had to be a salesperson because that was a commission job. I had to sell myself to even have moms allow me to touch their newborns. Had to wrap up their newborns and do this professional photo shoot in about 10 or 15 minutes, and then edit really fast, circle back, and sell them these photos. And I, there were aspects of the job that I loved, aspects that I didn't, but it definitely taught me like, oh, you need to make money. You need to take pictures that people actually want to buy. And I'm still learning that because even with that, I now shoot for Getty. In my head, I was like, oh, I'll go out and try to find all of these heroes and famous people, and I'll take their pictures and put them on Getty. Just because someone's famous to you or they've done work that you admire, it doesn't mean that their photo's going to sell. Right. And so like I said, I'm still learning that, but yeah.
That's great, and actually that points to the difference between on one side being creative, but then also managing the day-to-day business aspect of things. And oftentimes they do not necessarily go hand in hand. And that's the entrepreneur's job, to actually juggle both of these very important responsibilities. So kudos to you for being able to do this so effectively. Um, and then I also wanted to ask you about, you've had so many successes. Clearly, it's right there. But again, no success comes without failures. So, or challenges. If you could talk to us about some of the setbacks that you have experienced in your professional life, but more importantly, how did you perceive those failures and challenges, and how did you basically bounce back from them?
Okay. So one moment that sticks in my mind as a professor, um, I had my second daughter in July of 2014 and then went back to teaching that September and kind of bit off way more than I could chew. To the point where the following semester, my professor, who I've loved and who hired me, was like, "We're gonna pause you for a semester or two." And I remember thinking, like, I've failed, I've lost my job, all of this stuff, when in reality, it was just a pause. Like, you can regroup and try this again. And a year or so later, I reached back out to her, and St. John's has me back, you know? So, but that was a period where I was a little stressed and I had to rely solely on my photography income. And I wasn't a professor for, like I said, a semester or two. Another, I I would say some of my frustrations with trying to be signed with Reuters and trying to be signed with Getty. With Reuters, like I said, I gave it up for a moment because I was like, there's no way it's not a job that you can apply for. Well, sometimes you can. So that's not true. Sometimes Reuters does put out that they're looking for a staff photographer in a particular location. But those jobs roll around every few years. But to be a freelancer, there's no way to really apply for that. So that was a little frustrating when I was like, how do I get in? And then kind of like I said, releasing that dream. And then with Getty, so Reuters is world news. And occasionally I would take pictures of celebrities. And I would say to Reuters, can I put this celebrity on the wire? And they're like, no, we don't do celebrities. So my editor there connected me with Getty. And I want to say I was talking to Getty for a little over a year before they signed me. And there were long pauses in the communication. So that was also a little frustrating. And I felt like that wasn't really going to happen.
And did you initiate those conversations with these outlets?
So, um, yeah, so my editor connected me with them, and then of course I followed up, and there was conversation, but then they would go silent. And it was mainly because during COVID there were not a lot of assignments. They did not have a need for another photographer, and they're busy. Like my editor he is literally, coordinating the photographers that are shooting the VMAs, the Grammys, the Met Gala. A lot of times Getty is the house photographer for those events. And so he's coordinating those things. And also he's speaking to me, but sometimes he's busy. And so I would say part of it is like you want to be persistent, but you also need to give people space because sometimes they're not responding to you has nothing to do with you. They're busy. And so that was a little difficult being put on pause
Okay.
and not knowing if things would work out one way or
Yep.
the other.
Yep. And then I was also thinking that, with social media, but more importantly with new smartphones coming out, the whole field of photography has changed over the past 15, 20 years.
Absolutely.
So how do you perceive that change? And I would even say, because we have a very young audience here, if you could tell us about the life that was before these smartphones and how it has changed now.
So I think in the beginning I kind of spoke to how photographs were more physical for a long time, and now I feel like most photos don't ever leave the screen. Um, what were you? What was the?
So basically, does it come with everyone having a smartphone now? What's like the unique, I would say, proposition that a professional photographer has when everyone can take pictures?
So I would say there are areas where that line is very blurred. Um, Something I've learned now, having signed to these agencies, is even if you take a picture with a cell phone, if it's a photo they want, they're going to try to do business with you to get that. So, for example, one of my first assignments for Reuters was going to Glen Island here in New Rochelle when they first opened the COVID testing sites. And I didn't have my real camera, I had my cell phone camera, and I shot a bunch of pictures with my cell phone, and those ran. So you're absolutely right. You can be fully creative with your cell phone, with the video camera on your cell phone. Um, but yeah, when it comes to shooting a red carpet or a wedding or things like that, most of the time you do need professional equipment. And so that is the difference, because photography equipment is very expensive, and it sometimes takes years and sort of strategy, like, okay, I need that lens, so I'll save up for that lens, or I need this camera body, or I want to upgrade for whatever reason. Um, and so I would say gear sets you apart sometimes. Your network sets you apart. I do talk to my students about this though, because it's like from photography's invention in 1826, where it was in the hands of like a small group of people who were wealthy, but also inventor kind of mindset. They could travel and take pictures. It was just in their hands. And then it's slowly grown, and the technology has made it so now, yeah, the cameras in most developed nations, most people's hands, just on their phone alone. And it is highly competitive. I, I don't know necessarily, I'm very happy that my work stands out and that I've built this career for myself. But yeah, I don't necessarily, because there's so many people that are amazingly talented. There's tons of amazingly talented photographers. So I feel blessed that I have been able to build the career that I have.
Great, great.
Yeah.
And then with the clients that you have, do you occasionally face pushback from them for the work, or is there any critique? And more importantly, if that's the case, how do you handle that?
So, okay, without naming names, I had a major client that I made the most money that I'd ever made in my career with this client. Um, when I was a student, I was told, if you're shooting an advertising campaign, you can charge so many thousands for the licensing of the photos, right? So I'm taught this, and now I'm finally in this position with this major brand. And so I hit them with a $15,000 invoice, and they were like, absolutely not, we're not paying this. And I'm like, well, this is what you're supposed to pay. And they're like, who are you to charge this? I shed tears over this job. So what I would say is, it's not always that easy to ask for certain numbers. And I actually read an article the other day where they were saying like there was never a golden age in photography where a photographer could ask for many thousands and just expect an organization to give it. A lot of times I have to educate my clients and explain to them, this is the reason that I'm charging this. And if you don't like my cost, I'm still learning this. If you don't like my cost, maybe you should work with someone else. It's very difficult. It's not easy. Um, but like this client did wind up paying me, and so, it did work out. Um, Another, I think, hard lesson for me was another company asked me to take commercial photos, but I saw that there was also a photo documentary kind of feel to these photos, and I asked them if I could pitch these photos to Reuters, and they said yes. I thought these were the most amazingly beautiful COVID related photos. So the company used them commercially, and Reuters was so excited to use these photos, and at the very last minute the company was like, never mind, I don't want them to go onto Reuters. And so that was a hard blow, but I respect my clients and I didn't put the photos on Reuters. And so yeah, it's not necessarily, I don't always get what I want. Some things are a hard no, or there's pushback when I quote people prices, but I'm learning it's better to walk away from a client than it is to try and make it work with a client who's giving you all sorts of red flags in the beginning, because those are the situations that can kind of blow up in your face. And also, your paperwork needs to be really tight and spell everything out, so that you can always at least go back to the paperwork and say, well, we signed on this.
And that's actually a really good learning lesson for all of us. You should never undersell yourself, never undersell your work, and especially for the students, as you gain experience in the initial phases, it's going to be hard for you, to quote those high prices. But then again, if you know what the worth of your work is, you should never shy away from quoting that price. That's really important, right? Would you second that?
I would absolutely, because what seems like a lot of money to me, the photos I shot went on to make $90 million for this brand. And I'm not saying that my photos alone made 90 million. What they were selling, what I took pictures of, is what made the money. But my photos were the face of that, and what my photos were not only the face of the advertising, but also what was on their actual website. When people went to purchase the item, like, my photo was there. And so yeah, like I said, I had to educate the client a little bit and have a few what I felt like were unpleasant conversations. And I'm still learning, because I look at everyone like we're friends, we're nice, but brands and corporations, it's business, and they're always trying to do what's best for them and save money.
Absolutely. I wanted to follow this up with an observation that I've had here at the Heinz Institute specifically, but at Iona University in general. So we have students who are really creative. Okay, they have great ideas. I want you to emphasize on this idea of, many people have great ideas, but how do we actually take action to translate them into businesses? Like, what does that transition look like from an idea to actually creating a business?
Okay, so I mean, obviously, I can only really speak to photography, but what I will say is I spent a lot of time perfecting my craft, and researching so, like, I had to do research to know that Reuters even existed, and that's what I was trying to reach. Like, that was a goal I was trying to reach. Um, Learn your field, perfect your craft, and lean on your professors. Ask them lots of questions. Take them seriously, because with photography, like I said, all I wanted to do is take beautiful pictures. I'm like, I love doing this. I find it a lot of fun. I get really great feedback from my peers and my professors, so I must be good at it. That's it. That's all I wanted. Like, but I didn't realize, like, no, you need to, because, like, when I first started shooting, I'm like, $100 an hour. Surely that will make me lots of money. And no, I was getting hired. And then I was realizing, like, I'm not calculating the time I'm driving. I'm only saying it's $100 an hour for me to pull my camera out and take pictures. But I'm not calculating out my travel time. I'm not calculating my editing time, the time I'm on the phone talking to the client. Like, there's all of these hidden hours that by the time you map it out, like, maybe I made $15 an hour. And so you have to definitely do the research, you know, be able to create something. If you're going to be a creative, make sure that you're actually, creating something that is worthwhile. Yeah, and I guess take the business aspect
And would you
seriously.
add maybe being passionate about that idea? Like, would that be a significant
Yeah,
element there?
absolutely. I love photography to the point that even when I'm at my most tired or most frustrated or I don't feel like staying up late, there's something more that's driving it. And then when I do complete a project, the fulfillment level is different. And then also there have been these amazing perks. Like Sunday night, I was taking pictures of Angelina Jolie, someone who's like an icon. Um, and then also when Reuters said to me, "Well, what do you want to shoot? What are you passionate about?" And I was like, "I would like to do something on Black maternal health." What happens is, after working so much, now I can start to do my own passion projects, and they actually are amplified by the agencies that I'm contracted with. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. So, entrepreneurs are always looking into the future. So, as
Mhm.
an entrepreneur, as a creative person, like what are your dreams at this moment for the future as it unfolds for you?
Okay, so one of my goals, so when I first signed to Reuters, I thought that if you signed to an agency, you could only sign to that one agency as a freelancer. I've since learned that you can sign to as many as you want, as long as um, you're working in a transparent way and there's no conflicts of interest. So I would like to sign on to more outlets. Um, just because then you have more options as to what you can take pictures of. Because, like I said, Reuters doesn't like celebrities, but Getty does. New York Times likes local stories that have a worldwide appeal. And, so like I have different areas where I can take pictures and different stories I can tell and different outlets I can go to. So I would like to increase that. But honestly, I art has the ability to change the world, and I would love if my photos, if I could shoot something that elevates or educates. I feel like I've tapped into that a little bit with some of my past projects, but I would like my future projects to be even larger scale. I'd love to get back into my fine art photography because now I've been more in the realm of photojournalism. And so,
Excellent.
yeah.
Excellent. So, we've heard some really great insights from you. Before we move on to the Q&A session with the students, can you share with us like a few pieces of advice, again, specifically keeping in mind the students that we have here with us?
Okay, so like I told you all, I gave Johnny a battery and then he had me shoot Jay-Z. He had me shoot a bunch of other things that are really cool, but don't be kind to people because you want them to give you something in return. But kindness truly does matter, so be kind to people. Um, Connect with people. Like you're not going to connect with everybody, but try to. Try to connect with the people around you. You don't know who's going to connect you into what in the future. Be transparent. Um, I think that that has saved me a lot with many of my clients because I'll be the first to say, I've never shot something like that before. I'm willing to do it, but it's like tempering their expectations. I don't ever want to take someone's money and not deliver because that just doesn't feel right. And so be transparent with your clients. I'm in a place now where I feel like I need to build a team of people. So, you know, I'm just very honest with when people email me, listen, it might take me a day or two to respond. But I am going to respond or my editing if it's falling behind. I'm just very honest with people so that there's no surprises. Trying to think what else. Research the field that you want to go into. as much as possible, because sometimes you can research a lot and kind of spin out. You want to do the research, but you don't want to like get frozen there. You want to act. Um, like even with my night photography, there was, okay, what spots do I want to go to? Yeah, I can spend all day listing them, but I got to actually get in my car and go to the places. So get out and go out, network in real life, because that tends to, from at least for me, it's gone farther than social media. But social media counts too. I've definitely gotten some really cool connections through social media as well. Um, so if you use it correctly to kind of amplify the projects you're doing, you don't know whose eyes land on that, and then they're like, "Oh, I want to work with that person too." Also, so with photography, I tell people take pictures of what you want to be hired for free in the beginning, because I can say all day long I want to, take pictures of family portraits, but unless I have a portfolio of actual family portraits I've shot to show my style and my approach, how can a client really be interested in that? So, maybe as a photographer, I need to do some free family portraits so I can develop something to show someone to charge them for the service. So, whatever it is you're gonna do, maybe like, and I say this with an asterisk because you don't want to give away too much, right? You do want to be valued, you want to actually make money. But in the beginning, to get that ball rolling, you might have to do either discounted or free. Um, yeah, to get that experience. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. And I would just add something to the great advice that Joy just gave. Seek out mentors, and this counts. What the experience that you are engaging in right now, this counts for that. Seek out mentors, seek out role models, right? That's, I mean, people who have been there before you, have done things before you. Learn from their mistakes, learn from their successes. That's what counts. That's how we all grow. That's how we all learn.
I have to second that. Yeah, absolutely. I am blessed with the photographers who have kind of come in around me. Um, and I can call them when I'm having issues trying to negotiate or I'm feeling not valued or whatever. I can reach out to them and they will give me their perspective. And a lot of the time I realize, like, oh, my instincts were right. I'm validated in how I'm feeling, but they can help me with the wording or even telling me of situations that they've been in themselves that, yeah, I can learn a lesson from. Mentors are so important.
Excellent. So with that, we'll now, the focus is on you, the audience. We want you to ask questions. So let's begin. Who wants to ask the first question? Right there.
Oh, sorry.
There.
I'm going to use my other speaker. Raise your hand high.
Hi. Um,
What's your name?
oh, my name is Dana.
Hi, Dana.
Hi. Um, so you had mentioned earlier on that you're more introverted. So my question is, how do you, as a professional, um, sort of mitigate that anxiety when dealing with a professional landscape so that you're able to better connect with others, but also stand your ground?
I appreciate that question. I'm very true to myself. So I have a lot of photography friends, and some of them cringe because they're like, with the way I operate. So like, if I go shoot a gala, they'll be like, make sure that you're connecting with people, and you want to leave that gala with 3 new jobs. And I'm like, that's not me. I will go up to everyone in the room. My camera is like this shield for me, right? If I don't have my camera, I'm probably going to be a wallflower. But with my camera, I can now walk up to everybody in this room like, hey, can I just take a quick photo of you if you don't mind? And because I'm obviously there for that reason. And so I think my camera is my passport to speaking to people. Um, what's interesting is like I don't think I've ever truly felt the introversion part of it because of that. until after COVID. So those 2 years off, not really shooting, the very first time I went back out, I was apprehensive to talk to people. And I was like, what is this? It was very weird, but honestly, you just got to force yourself. You just have to just mentally push past it. Like, okay, what am I afraid of? So, like, I like to sit sometimes and assess, like, what am I really afraid of? It's just speaking to a person, or what am I feeling apprehensive about? It's just getting out of the house. Just so sometimes you just have to like push your own self, right? I hope that answers it.
And that's actually a really good response, Joy, because with introversion, right, it's at times difficult to engage in a group setting. But then, as an introvert, maybe you can have a more deeper one-to-one connection with someone. That's the strength that introverts actually have, that they can engage in really deep conversations on a one-to-one basis. So again, let's not see introversion as a weakness. It actually has a lot of strengths. If that's a personality trait that you have, treat it as a strength, because there is strength in that as well, right?
And then I also honor that part of myself. If I go out and I do something that's high stress, I'm gonna go like chill out now for a few hours and just silence, or listen to an audiobook or whatever. I like documentaries and things like that. So I will debrief afterwards. Yeah.
Excellent. Next question.
My name is Brandon.
Hey, Brandon.
So you've mentioned that you have a passion for photography, and you've mentioned the struggles that you've been through as well. How were you able to bounce back from, like, have you ever had a feeling of giving up on doing this?
Yes, no. So, yeah, I have, right? But I think at this point, till I realize that it's like a wave, right? You cannot exist at peak creativity 24/7. And even at your lowest, right? We've all felt low before, right? Think of your lowest moment. Like, but now you're here. And so you know that you're going to come out of it. And sometimes it's just a matter of like when you're feeling really you're feeling low about something, you feel like giving up with something. Like, matter of fact, my MFA, a week before I was going to finish, the amount of work of my thesis became so much that I was just like, I'm done. I don't need a thesis. I don't need my MFA. I'm gonna quit. Like, I went and said this to my mom, and she just kind of looked at me. She's like, Joy, go take a nap, right? Like, just disconnect for a couple of seconds and come back into yourself. Maybe you need to go sit by the water. I don't like whatever it is you do, maybe play a video game, veg out, disconnect. But then realize like what is my long-term goal? And I think like if you think about like a Kobe Bryant who would like arrive to the gym way before everyone else and he's just shooting and shooting and shooting, or like a Steph Curry, like there a lot of the work that you're going to do is going to be you alone. Like I said, I sit now at my computer for like 90% of my work. I'm sitting alone, whether I'm grading or editing or whatever. You just have to have like a bigger picture focus and believe in yourself and understand that you're going to get a ton of no's. I have gotten a ton of no's, but it's the yeses that matter. And sometimes you'll get a no from someone who's going to circle back around and say yes in the future. So yeah, it's just you have to just be resilient and think of the bigger picture. But yes, I have wanted to give up like quite a few times.
Thank you. Any other questions? You, then you.
I'm Thomas.
Hi, Thomas.
Nice to meet you. Do you see your career in photography like going into any new paths, like into any like new creative paths, like something that you weren't able to do before because you're working for a business that like you want to pursue on your own? Like some of like your like you do you think it's going to turn more personal in terms of like what your creativity is?
Absolutely. So like there's been a project that has been on my mind for years that logistically I haven't been able to make happen yet. And I'm just going to be transparent. Shooting the Underground Railroad at night, I wanted to, and like doing the research on that is like, it's astronomical. And the paths didn't even go in one line. It went kind of like a star shape, right? And people went to Florida, people went to Mexico, people went to Cali. So there's a lot of research that goes into that, but like financially, I'm like, how do I just stop everything and go shoot this? But yeah, I would love to do that. And I am kind of now in a place where I'm starting to bring that back. But I had that idea back in like 2010, and I actually started to make it come together. And then I had my second daughter, so I was like, oh, this has got to be shelved. And then COVID happened, and then signing with these agents. And so, like, yeah, this has been an idea that I've had for a while, and it's been on pause for a while. But I do see myself circling back to that and going back into my fine art realm. So thank you for that question.
Hi, how are you? My name is
Hello.
Diamond.
Hi, Diamond.
So my question is, I know that you said like there's a lot of photographers and everyone's work is good. So like, what makes your business unique since like everybody can kind of take good pictures?
That is such a good question. And honest, so the professor in me is like, everybody is a photographer, everyone can shoot, you know. I think I have my own personal goals, right? And I've done a lot of research in photography. And so it's partially my network, like partially, you know, like I said, my dad connected me into clients early on. And so some of those have stuck. Doing the infant photography, some of that is stuck. I think doing all the different fields, because a lot of the time people will tell people you've got to niche down. You've got it, like, if you're an infant photographer, you're only an infant photographer. If you're an architectural photographer, you're only that, or only fine art. And so I think kind of maybe using the fact that I'm a professor as an excuse to do a little bit of everything, and then sticking to my guns when people are telling me like, oh, you've got a niche down. I'm like, no, I don't. If someone wants to hire me and I feel confident that I can shoot it, I'm going to. And then also taking the opportunities as they arise. So like Reuters came around because of COVID, but I immediately seized upon that opportunity. And it could, like, there have been so many other opportunities that I've seized on, and it's been a no. And so, you know, that's fine. But seizing on that opportunity, and then I I guess like working with my editor at Reuters, part of it is the quality of my photos, but like we said, a lot of people can take great photos, but she and I have actually developed a good relationship. And so that is important also. And she told me, because one day I asked her, because sometimes I have imposter syndrome, and I'm like, how am I here? Why am I the one? Why am I worthy? And she was like, Joy, we all come here through different paths, but if you were difficult to work with, or if you were late to your assignments, or if like any variety of negative reasons. Like if any of those things, no, they would not still work with me. But they still work with me because I'm honest, I'm a good person, I deliver, I ask questions, I accept critique, I change my work based on critique. Then when she connected me to Getty, same thing, developed a relationship with my editor there. And so a lot of the photographers that shoot at this level have multiple contracts across different agencies. And so I think what happens is, like, I guess there's a certain personality type maybe that the editors look to work with. And, you know, if you fit that mold, you can work with a variety of different ones. I hope that has answered your
Yeah.
question. You're welcome.
One, two, three, four.
Good morning, Joy. My name is Alexander Osei.
Hi, Alexander.
I wanted to know if you had any aspirations of being the agency itself, or
No, but that's a good question. There are a lot of photographers I've met who do want to create their own agency. I'm not saying I would never do that, but right now, no, because I'm not the business side of things. Like, I just want to take pretty pictures. That really is it's still very true for me.
How you doing?
Hello.
My name is Jaden.
Hi, Jalen.
It's kind of a two-part question.
Okay.
I was gonna ask, how do you market yourself, and when you do market yourself to, like you said, in Getty Images and Reuters,
Mhm.
what tweaks did you make when you did get told no?
Mhm.
When you was marketing yourself.
So, I don't market myself, which a lot of people are, a lot of my photography friends, they kind of cringe at that. My social media is probably my marketing. When I post in my head, I'm like, well, that's marketing, even though it's not. Um, I really don't. It's word of mouth gets me most of my clients, recommendations. A lot of the time I feel so stressed out with the amount of work I'm doing that I'm not marketing because I was like, I'm not trying to seek out new business. Um, and what was your other question?
Just kind of how when you got told no,
Hmm.
what tweaks did you make for them to say yes, basically?
So Reuters didn't say no so much as I just couldn't figure out a pathway in.
Or in general, just the people
When
who
they
did tell
said
you no.
I I move on. I move on. Unless it's something that I've true. So, for example, there's something called the New York Portfolio Review. I applied for that last year and I did not get in. That's something that's a huge event that happens yearly. I will just continue to apply until I cannot any longer. There is a rule, like if you've been shooting for an agency, I think for like 3 years, you can't apply. So I'll come up when I get to that, then I won't apply anymore. But if it's something I truly want, I'm going to keep applying. But if it's something that is like a one-off, then I just kind of I sit with it, but I don't sit with it too long. If that makes sense,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hello, my name is Jordan, and
Hi, Jordan.
I was curious, what is your pre-game ritual of shorts before a shoot?
Okay, so before a shoot, um, lately a lot of my shoots are in Manhattan, so I have Waze and I GPS. Like what time do I need to be there? I try to be there an hour early, um, and I pay for my parking ahead of time. It's all like, how can I make this so I get there on time early? Um, Try to eat like a light snack because you're standing in one spot for a very long time. So it's not a good time to have any bodily issues distracting you, right? So it's like you want to make sure that you're comfortable shoes, comfortable clothing, what's the temperature? Sometimes the red carpets are outside, right? Sometimes they're inside. But yeah, just making sure that I'm comfortable, that I'm going to be there early. Um, and that's really about like I drive everywhere, so I have my little playlist that I listen to. But at this point, I've been doing it so long that it's not one thing in particular. I don't want to be hungry. I want to be neat and I want to be early. That's yeah.
Speak to the mic.
Hi, Joy. My name is Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
I wanted to ask, I know you mentioned that you have to educate your customers to justify your pricing. How do you know when to walk away, especially in the beginning when you're trying to establish yourself?
So, I mean, I'm still learning that lesson because I mean, this summer I literally had a moment with a client that was not it didn't resolve itself the way I would have liked it to. So I'm still learning that. But the more those types of incidents happen, the more I realize, like, okay, when this happens in the beginning, that's kind of like a red flag, right? My easy clients, they reach out to me, hey, I have an event, I have a party, I have a this. and then I say, okay, what are the hours? This is my cost. What are your questions? It's like the conversation should flow easily. They should just pay me. It shouldn't be something where I'm chasing money. But even like the way I deliver my photos, I had to be burned, and I gave someone photos and they didn't pay me my balance. And then I was like, okay, from now on, I want 100% of my balance before a photo is ever delivered. Sometimes it's a matter of having things come back to bite you that you learn from that mistake, right? And so, yeah, you're welcome.
Maybe we'll take one last question.
You wanna? Oh wait, Alex had a question. Sorry.
Hi, my name is Alex.
Hi, Alex.
So my question is, how has your style changed compared to your style now? And if your style now has a specific tell for people to know that you took your photo, and how did you develop that tell?
So,
Sorry, says the guy with the camera. On his hand.
I would say it definitely changed through all of my different photo jobs, right? So I graduated from undergrad. I basically shot only black and white film up to that point. And so the students and professors loved it. So I'm like, okay, black and white film, street photography, got that. But my night photography was all blurry. So when I did my MFA, honed in on how do I shoot long exposures at night. When I did the school photography, there was a totally different approach to capturing 30 third graders in a 15 or 20-minute period, right? And setting up the backdrop and the lights. And, those photos have to look a certain way. Doing real estate, learning how to expose the windows and then, have the flash fill the room. It was doing all of these different types of photo jobs, even the infant photography, that was all natural light. So there was a very specific way to set the infants up and have the new mother come in a way that, because most new mothers, the day after they give birth, they're not feeling their most photogenic. So I had to pose them in a certain way with their new baby that they're going to look at this picture and see themselves as beautiful. And so it was working through all of these different types of jobs, satisfying my bosses and the styles that they wanted, that I slowly started over the years to come to my own style. But I would say it's just through years of working for different genres of photography for different people. And then, because at the end of the day, you know what your eye likes, you know what you like. And so it's just a matter of trying to capture that. I hope I answered your question. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
I hope Joey is
you.
not leaving right away, but we have to end the official part of this. So thank you, Joy, for doing
Thank
this.
you all.
To the students, three things. You guys have all flyers of all day events. We have more of this coming out. We have 3 more throughout today, so please join us. We also have 5 tomorrow, so I would like to see some of your faces here today and tomorrow. There's also another flyer about an ENT mixer. If you're interested in entrepreneurship in any way, shape, or form, you don't have to necessarily major. It's a good opportunity to meet some of our faculty. Our mentors are going to be here just to engage with us. Finally, there's lunch, and we could all mingle together. So please feel free to stay an extra couple of minutes, grab lunch, and mingle with Joy and all of us.
So let's give Joy a warm round of applause. Thank you very much, Joy.